Hey friend, welcome back to the 1010 Book Club channel. If you are new here, my name is Billy Chan. I am a passionate learner that is based in Penang, Malaysia. And on this channel, we explore the books, the knowledge, and the tools that help us to learn and gain life wisdom. Subscribe to this channel if you have not yet. Today, we have Howg and Kuang to share Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport with a subtitle, Choosing a Focused Life in a Noisy World. Here, you are going to learn how can you achieve more by doing less. Alright, let us learn something today and dive into their sharing now.
So, very good morning to all who join us in this book sharing. 10. Hao Kuang and I actually been asked to actually share about this book, and it's our honor to be here again. In fact, for people who doesn't know, Hao and I actually kind of co-founded this book club, and then we pass it on to current committee. But they actually make it much better than when we started off this book club sharing a couple of years back. As you can see in this slide, Hao and I will share the book together. We'll try question about me and share.
Yeah, I think you need to turn off your video.
So we'll go through and let me know if my audio coming out okay. How?
It's okay. It sounds better now.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Sorry for the interruption. This is actually our first time also do it virtually. It is somehow contradicting about the title of this book called Digital Minimalism, isn't it? Why don't I pass it to you to share and lead us through this book sharing?
Okay, sure. Yeah, thanks for kicking it off. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank the organizing committee, Billy, Kat and so on, for organizing this. I think the last time Hao and I did a sharing together was probably 3-4 years ago. That was kind of about Sir Alex Ferguson, and it was in PG12. Times really have changed. Now we have to do it virtually. But we hope that this presentation or this sharing you will find useful. We kind of keep it a little bit like conversation between Hao and myself, and then we will use the slides to kind of like assist us along the way about some of the key points that we want to share. We invite you all, if you have questions, feel free to use the chat between Hao and myself. We also be monitoring the chat. So if questions coming in, we will help to address those questions in the chat as well. And then maybe Kat also can help to read us the questions there. Okay. All right. So with that, let's get started. Okay. All right. Hey, so Hao, before we talk about digital minimalism, maybe we need to kind of like get a level set on the minimalism, right? This is a bit of this concept has been around for a little while, but maybe still new to some of the people. So maybe can you tell us a little bit what minimalism is?
Sure, How. Now, first of all, before I go on further, I must confess, I'm not yet a minimalism. I'm trying to practice it, but I don't think that I'm there to declare that I'm actually minimalism. So my understanding about this concept actually coming from few book and video channel that I browse through. To my understanding, the concept of minimalism really is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that's focused on the most important thing in your life, focus on quality versus the quantity. And the one of the things that most people go into minimalism is to seek some inner peace and satisfaction, try to live simple but yet meaningful life. And I think one of the terms that you hear from people talk about is to gain back the freedom by getting yourself away from this concept of capitalism and materialistic. and this is my understanding about minimalism, and then we can go through some of the concept in the book as well. But this is my understanding. So, How, I know that you and I talk about this minimalism. You want to maybe share your experience yourself, that when you learn about this book, what have you done yourself?
Okay. Sure. So I also have to make a disclaimer. I'm not a minimalism yet as much as I want to be. But there are a few things I think I've gone through recently. Part of this MCO experience working from home is that I guess you have to take a hard look of all the clutters that you may have at home, right? And I think there are a few things. My wife is pretty good in throwing out things. So we try to, because I spend so much time at home nowadays, so we try to make sure the house is neat and tidy. Some of the stuff that actually I had to give away or throw away are the books. I love reading books, but books take up a lot of space, and then with my kids and all that, it just their books become more priority than my books. So I had to make space for that. So over the years, actually, and more so now, is that actually a lot of books I actually have gone into digital. I use Kindle a lot. I have 100+ books on Kindle, and for me, actually, during the old days when we had to travel and all that, I take the Kindle with me. I also find that very useful. So for me, I would look at it as maybe one way of a minimalism there. And the other part is actually I also learned from a friend. He mentioned that he only keep like 10 pieces of shirts for himself, and he when he go through the process of that minimalism of for his shirts and all that, it was tough to just imagine if you say if now you're told you can only keep 10 pieces of shirts, you may have to pick and choose which one. But he said actually it helped him after he narrowed down the 10 pieces that he keep. Those are really his favorite shirts, good quality and so on. And then from then on, he actually also makes sure that whenever he need to buy a shirt, it's not just like he sees something he like, he buy, but he has to first ask himself, which is the 10 that I have I need to throw away or give away, right? So it put him in a bit more thoughtful process, instead of just consuming or buying. He will make sure that actually he has something that he want to give up to take up that 10 piece of shirts kind of place. So that again is just another concept or another practice that people use in the minimalism. Again, many of us are not quite there yet, but again, it's really it's defy the consumerism. It defies the materialistic kind of world. It actually make your life simple and easy, and it's actually freedom. Give you a lot of more freedom there. Okay. All right. So for now, we will go into a little bit of the this first time we are trying this. We are doing a polling. Just want to keep these sessions so interactive. So I'm launching a poll here. All right, so what is the average number of hours of screen time per day for a user? What do you think, is the right number of hours? Just click that and then hit the submit button.
So this is the first time we're trying it. So let's see how that goes. And before we go and talk about the concept of the book, it's good to at least get the idea of how much you think that we spend on our screen time per day as users. We have 3 questions total.
Yeah.
And just hit the hours and then submit, and then we'll thumbs up, and then we'll summarize. What's your feedback in the thinking?
Okay.
Maybe 3 hours.
So I'm not sure you can see the result. Let me see. I can move the result there. Not view option. Just pull. No, I cannot. Okay. So the result shows that 5% of people select 3 hours, 21% 6 hours, 35% 9 hours, 39% 12 hours. Wow. Okay. So apparently the highest 12 hours as the highest option there. Okay. So I guess people are a little bit more pessimistic about all this digital consumption. Okay, so the answer is actually 3 hours, not the 6, 9, or 12 that you all have selected. Okay, all right. Let's do another poll and see. How many minutes does an average user spend per day on Facebook, Instagram products alone? This is more like the social apps. And again, based on that 3 hours just now, not the 12 hours that you selected, but like out of the 3 hours or so, how much of that is on social media? Okay, we will, all right, we will close the poll now. And 20 minutes, 15%, 40 minutes, 20%, 50 minutes, 25%, 80 minutes, 39%. So again, people always go for the highest number. But the correct answer is actually 50 minutes. Okay, so average user about 50 minutes or so. Okay, I think we have one more question. Oh, okay. So what's the average number of hours a user spend a day looking at their smartphone screen?
For those who just joined, you can actually look at the chat box. The question, the poll is actually posted there, and then you can actually click and submit. And the summary of your response will be shown in the chat box as well.
Oh, okay, so it shows that. Okay, good. All right, we'll close the poll now. Okay, and the answer to this is 3 hours. Okay, so you can see the results, so I don't have to read that out. All right, so yeah, again, we just want to do this kind of quick poll to just kind of see where you think how much the screen time have consumed our daily life. I think most of you are on the right track, and some of you may have a bit more, maybe a bit more pessimistic, but let's see. But in any way, I think there's no denial that the digital media, the screen time and all that have consumed a big portion of our life nowadays. Okay, let me switch to the slides here. We've gone through the question. All right, so this is another statistics. This is more on the US folks in terms of the cell phone usage, right? And you can see, people are using the phone in the toilet. You know, people, 67% of people are texted someone in the same room as them before. You can see, so we won't read through all the statistics, but again, just kind of show the evidence about people are very much consumed by the phone, by the screen. And the interesting, maybe the data here is on average, Americans check their phones 262 times per day. That's once every 5.5 minutes. It's a scary data, but I believe a lot of you can resonate to that also. So a lot of screen time, a lot of distractions. Okay, so I think we have established that now. The digital media is consuming our time. Yeah, and then we will talk a little bit more about some of this. Okay, somehow it went off the screen. Okay, Kuang, pass it on to you on this.
So maybe this is a pictures that we found on internet, and as you can see in the pictures, I guess it's uncommon that whenever we go to attend some dinner and you notice that people actually did not talk to the people face to face. In fact, they probably look at their screen rather than talking to you. And this is something that maybe I will ask how. No, I was talking to you about this, and you say that you actually have a dinner table rules. You want to tell us what is that all about?
Yeah, with some of the friends, a lot of time I feel quite annoyed, right? You sit at the dinner desk and everybody is looking at their phone. So some of the more closer friends, what we do is like, okay, everybody have your phone on the table, and whoever the first one to pick up the phone, then we'll have to settle the bill for everybody. Then then we get everybody's attention. Everybody commit to that, and put their phones down, and then the question of course is who will get the first phone call, right? So that's always interesting and fun, and it's actually get the conversation going there. And I encourage you to enforce such rule, and especially in your family dinner table, no phone and all that. Because it is really scary when you see a picture like this where everybody is sitting there but everybody is staring at the screens there.
Yeah. So, and apparently, I think it's no doubt. I mean, even though we asked that question, both myself and Howg actually, when we have a conversation about this, we both believe that the consumption of the handphone actually does impact, the quality of our relationship nowadays. In one hand, people may argue. I think, of course, from the book, it's definitely argued that it's actually impacting the quality of our relationship. So we'll go to now with all this pre-work at upfront is to bring the idea. The concept is the consumption of the social media actually does impact our life, and therefore this is all the book about, right? The book. So we'll go through and share some of the concept of the book, and hopefully that will lead you to pick up the book and read even further. I think the author of the book spent a lot of time giving example, telling story of the concept of the distraction in social media, and then talk about the steps, right, and some concept and principle on how do we get that. So we'll go to that in a moment. I think pass back to you, Howg, on the next slide. Let's go to the next slide.
Sure. Yeah. So I think you all heard time is money, but nowadays it's actually your time become their money. You look at all these big tech companies, be it Google, Facebook, Baidu, Tencent, all their business model is actually to get you to click more, get you to spend more time, click on the advertisement and so on. In fact, as soon as you open the phone, you get into the social media, you are actually in some way is already in a losing battle, right? And that's what the book is about. They say actually it's very difficult for you to get away. As we all have gone through, you may start off by watching a YouTube video. Before you know it, you click, you just keep on making recommendation that somehow kind of makes sense to you that you want to watch the next one and so on. Because they want to keep your attention. And the reason I say it's a losing battle is because each of these companies hiring hundreds of thousands of engineers. And this engineer have the title called attention engineer. So their KPI, their success indicator is how long they can keep people on their page, on the media, and keep on clicking. And of course, besides the attention engineer, there are AIs and all that behind it as well. So it becomes really difficult for you to get off. I share an experience I have. I watch YouTube sometimes on my phone and all. And it's kind of interesting that because I have a single logon for my TV box, my laptop, and my phone, when I go in, the YouTube is smart enough to know, oh, okay, even to the time of the day, like after work time, it knows, it recommends some like more the musical or some of the stuff that I watch. And then during work time, you'll recommend NVIDIA, whatever, Intel kind of thing. It kind of keep you really hooked on, and you just have to keep on, hey, this sounds interesting, this is educational and or whatever, or entertaining, and then you just keep on clicking, right? So it become really a challenge for us to get out from this because their money actually depending on your attentions there.
Yeah, I saw there's a chat box people talk about in iPhone. There's an battery usage by application, and that from there you can actually track how much percentage you use on the apps. In the book, he also talk about as a first step, you actually download an application. I don't remember the name, but I actually look it up myself. There are a few applications in Android App Store, and I'm sure in iPhone too, that to track your time spent on certain applications by time. And I think this is the same thing that the author did, right? He wasn't sure how he spent the time and by what category he actually go and download. And before he go and download, he thought that, oh, I only have maybe 1 hour on these things, when eventually he realized that he's actually spent a lot more time, 3x or 4x more than what he thought he spent on this thing. So, your time, we old people used to say money is time, right? Which is still true. I think the things that argue is your time now being manipulated by the application, in this case, social media. And therefore, there got to be a way that we can actually get out of the control from this, tech giant. I think this is not something that the book argues. Back to you, Howg.
Okay, and I saw Niam. Actually, yeah, this one was mentioned in the Social Dilemma documentary, which we'll recommend towards the end. Yeah, there are two industries that call their customer as user. One is software company, the other one is a drug user. Good point there. Yeah. All right.
Let's go to the next slide, Howg.
Yes. Okay. So this one, yeah, Howg, go ahead.
Niam bring up a good idea. He used drug as an analogy. I think in this book, or at least the author has been openly shared about the analogy of slot machine equal to social media usages. I don't know about you. Many years ago, when I first attracted to social media application called Facebook, it was excited. It was excited because you realize that the Facebook actually do recommend and know that some of your friends is maybe you are connected and maybe you know this person. And then the more you hook in and you start to make connection with team members, and then you just get into it, right? You feel like you want to connect with people. They are friends on the primary school, secondary school that you're now connected. At the time, we were like thankful. We're thankful to Facebook for connecting us with the people, right? And that was the origin of the Facebook when Mark Zuckerberg created that from the Harvard University in the college. But as they evolve into an industry giant, they have to start to make money. I think that the intention to connect people is somehow diluted, and then they want to start to sell the number-based customer. They start to track million active users. They start to hire people so that they can actually hook you into their platform, and many of them are actually touched on your psychology. And if you think about it, I mean, the book argue it's like a slot machine. Once you get into it, it's so difficult to get out. And in analogy they use is actually you become addictive. You become addictive because you want to be liked by others. And one of the things that they talk about is the button that invented by Facebook called like button. I like you. So this is one of the things that in the book that I think associate with me really well. I resonate with that really well based on my personal experience. I can talk about. I share that with how I never play this application called Candy Crush. I know that it could be addictive, but it's one day I found it in my Shopee. I just played, and you know what? When I first get into it, I spend half an hour just to get through the level, and then I missed my routine. I was supposed to go walk, and then I pick up Shopee and just try to pick something, then I get hooked into it. So it was so addictive, then I have to force myself to delete it. Else, I'll just keep playing it. So maybe a question to you. How many of you actually click like every day? And you can respond in your message and tell us what do you think about this slot machine analogy.
Yeah, actually in the book, it actually has a terminology. It called this is a social validation feedback loop. When you see the like, then you say, oh, okay, people like my posting and all, then you keep on, then you post more. And then of course you also want to validate other people's as well. Then you also click like for others, right? So it become a circle, right? And then you just keep on clicking and all that. But of course, the attention engineer behind the scene are getting all this info that, oh, okay, you like this posting, you like this picture, you like this video. Then they will try to curate that, curate the news listing and all that based on your likes. So you're actually giving your data and your share that kind of information to the media, to the kind of tech companies there.
All right, Hal, let's go to the next slide. We'll talk about book then.
All right.
So let me share a little bit of the book the outline. This book actually is a simple read. Billy used to tell me that I can finish the book in 2 days. In fact, I do actually spend more than a week, partly because I want to slow it down to make sure I get the concept. The book actually divided to 2 parts. Part 1 is called Foundation. He talked about the fundamentals. He tells a lot of story. He used a lot of example to actually argue his point. And I'll talk about 3 principles. And later part of the second part of the book, he talked about the practices, the step of how do you minimize the distraction from the social media that you and I cannot run away. Now, first disclaimer, I don't think that the book talk about no technology at all. In fact, the opposite. We did not talk about the book author. The book author is Cal Newport. In fact, he's a computer professor in the Georgetown University. So it's not a person who you may imagine that he doesn't know about technology, he doesn't know about computer, that's why he talks about this. In fact, he teaches computer science as his profession. And his philosophy and the other thing that he writes about is how the technology intersect with the cultures. Okay, so I think that people want to know what is this about and what's the principle. He talked about this as a principle in the foundation. Of course, that in the part 1, I spent I don't know how many pages, at least 1/3 of the book talk about the principle, right? So let me go through that. Why don't I run all the 3 and I'll talk about each of them.
Sure.
So the 3 principles, the foundation to support him to embrace the technology, because the whole idea is he wanted us to embrace the technologies. The only thing is there is also a side effect or downside as the social media being created. And therefore the 3 principle is humans by natures will be driven by, more is better, right? So this concept of cluttering, if you look at your application, when you think about iPhone when it first invented, I think he shared the example of iPhone. The iPhone, when it first created, if I remember, is to combine 3 things into a single devices. Back then, for people who are never been to, I've been to that, I used to carry a PDA, and then we have a GPS, right? And then we have iPod, the music player. The idea of the iPhone is to combine all these 3 things together and make it clean, right? You don't need that many, devices. And it's true, today, most of us only carry 1 device, which is phone. However, you have installed so many applications. I used to install so many applications in my phone. And to try to find the optimization, the cost of multiple benefits of this application, sometimes it leads to the opposite. That means that it becomes costly to actually find what is the best of these tools. So the idea is it is costly if you have too many things sometimes. It's better that you actually focus on only a few things. So that's the principle number 1. The second one is optimization. This principle talk about the cost of, if you look at the S-curve, right? Typically when the beginning of any application or any breakthrough idea, the first 80% I would say. The benefit is actually leapfrog. But then you get to a point that will start to flatten. And you try to optimize further, it's probably not the best thing that you want to talk about. And the third thing he talked about, the principle, is the intentionality, right? I think for this one, I will use my way of understanding to share with you. When we have TV, we tend to just sit down open, and we doesn't have this on-demand video back then, right? So you just sit down and you being consumed by the TV advertisers on what program you want to watch, what advertisement you need to watch. Intentionality is when you go and open any of these technologies, tools, you have very clear idea on what you want to use this for, rather than being passively consumed by them. And this book, the author have much better argument than me to explain this concept. So pardon me for explaining my way, but I strongly suggest that if you are interested and you don't happy with what I said, go ahead and buy the book, borrow from us, and then read through it.
Okay, maybe just a couple of things to add on. I think, like, for example, intentionality. It talks about, actually, if you install an app or you're visiting a website or do certain things, you always have to ask yourself, what do you try to get out of it? So that it becomes very clear, so that you don't get distracted or sidetracked. One of the things actually, Kuang, we talk about installing the Office apps. I think most of us are doing that now in Android phone or iPhone. We do have like our Outlook and all that on our phone. But then the question you have to ask yourself is, what's your intention here? Do you want to be 24/7 on call, check out what's the update from your management or from your peers and so on? Or you are using it for other purpose? For me, it's actually very clear. I use it, actually I install it, but mainly just for, in case I'm on the run, I have to fetch my kid, I need to take call, then only I turn it on. The other thing is actually I just use it as a backup, just in case my internet goes down, at least I have a way to call in, just in case there's some important meeting. Day to day, actually, I don't read email from there. Of course, the eyes cannot read the small word, and of course, to compose the email from there also not effective. So I consciously make sure that I don't use the email on my phone to get myself plugged in all the time. Because that is something you have to be very conscious about. Otherwise, the whole thing will consume your daily life there. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So let's go to the next slide because this is a different way of talking or describe the principle. I borrowed from one of the bloggers. I thought it's good. The technologies should be intentional, not habitual. Right? I don't know how many of you. I used to be like that. Every day when I wake up, the first thing I look at habitually is I open a Facebook, right? And once it becomes habitual, that leads to potentially become addictive. Second, technology is to making stuff, not feeling better. Now, social media is actually the tools that make you feel better sometimes, right? And most of the time, people go in and you see that people share good food. Hardly you I know that people hardly sorry, I distracted. Addition, it should not be habitual. It should be intentional. Technology is to making stuff, not feeling better, right? And I think one of the book concept is argue is you need to spend time to craft something, to create something, right? And how and I talk about this concept and this a little bit. We saw that sometimes people will just forward a message. And I think that we tend to forward more message than writing our own article nowadays. Then we'll talk about some of the steps that tie to this principle later on. Now, the third thing is, I think in the book, or at least maybe the YouTube that I watch, and argue about this point is, when you have heard about someone's birthday or have a newborn, do you rather send a quick message, thank him, or you rather pick up a call or find a way to visit him? Right? I think that the tools give us some convenience. It is so fast speed, and sometimes we can do so many things at the same time that I can send 10 birthday wishes to the WhatsApp group, but it doesn't really touch in people. Right? How when I talk about this, technology is supposed to be used to assist us, But I think I get to the point that sometimes I abuse the tools and without spending time to really focus on the quality of my relationship.
Yeah, actually, Kok Hao also share one of his family tips, right? He does like select some the documentary or movies to watch as a family. And for me, actually, I thought, oh, it's a very good idea. I also try to do that with my family. Because my boys, every time after dinner, they all disappear to their own room. They will watch their own YouTube and Netflix or whatever. So now we make it a point that we say, okay, we'll take turn to select. You want to watch a documentary or want to watch, we all watch together. Because I feel it's important that we share that kind of experience. At least we have a common topic or common theme that we can talk about. And that kind of go, that you use the technology intentional, so that it's not just habitual. And now my kids expectation is, okay, after dinner they just don't go, because I say you get the chance to select whatever you want to watch after that, but this is family time. Let's kind of share, watch something together. So Kok Hao actually give me some of the good recommendation in terms of some of the documentaries, some of the movies, kind of suitable for the family viewing and all. So if you guys are interested, we will be happy to share some of these as well. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that. Just share a little bit more. This is also inspired by another author that I know from Taiwan. One thing that I did is I threw away my TV after it broken, right? So I have no TV in the house for 4 years, and the time saving because of that is significant, to the point that I can finish more books and my kids actually get into the reading a lot more than stick to the TV. Then the other one is, of course, this concept intentionally is instead of let the TV program consume what we need to watch, we were actively looking for the title that we think is good, right? And so we have a movie list for my kids. Of course, sometimes it's difficult because of the age group, but we actually make a plan on, okay, in this month, there are 2 movies on the watch. There are a few documentary on the watch, right? Or history that we want to watch together. And some of them could be and then we always pick I have a Sherlock Holmes too, but maybe that one's not suitable for my age group yet. But there are a couple of documentaries that I do recommend, and also series that I think is good, more educational. I think that could be better use of just watching TV altogether. Now back to you, Hao.
All right. Okay, let's move to the next slide.
So this is a summary, and I think this is go into more practical, the steps on how can you get started. And so let me talk about first and second that you can do if you were to actually start to take control on your own time, that not being too much of social media. The first one is to escape from the smartphone. I must say that this may be difficult. Move the smartphone to a dumb phone. That means that you go back to Nokia 3110, right? No application. It's very tough for me, but there are a few things you can do, which I just did over the weekend, is go through your application, your phone, do the decluttering, means that start to uninstall application. And I think there's the apps in the phone that talk about how many times you open these apps for the last 24 hours, 48 hours, or maybe 1 year. My phone actually pop up to clean up, and they'll suggest me to delete certain apps because I may have installed it because I want to export something. After that, I never use it, right? So clean up your phone application. Maybe it's useful. Clean up the person you doesn't want to follow, a friend in the Facebook you doesn't want to follow anymore, could be another way of doing it, right? The third thing is turn off notification. Why? Because this application want to get your attention. They'll notify you, and then you're like, oh, let me take a look. And I think it's distracted, because as I look in the meeting chat, I get distracted too, right? And then I under comment, go to make up my mind. So one of the way, if you were to focus, is to turn off notification, right? Find fewer apps, delete some apps, and then capitalize your home screen, because whenever you open your phone, the first thing come out is your phone, it's the home screen, right? Focus on a few things that really absolute when you need to open, and that will help you to reduce the tendency for you to keep open your to unlock your screen, right? How and I talk about it, we probably discourage people to using your phone as your work. I actually try to do that is when I'm on the laptop, I know that I'm 100% on my work. When I go phone, maybe that's on social media, right? The moment we put it all together, and then you cannot distract. I find it very difficult for me to focus on, notification pop up and versus the work. Then the second one on the inbox. Email has been one of the most important things that consume our work and productivities, I would say. I think one of the book recommended is maybe you should actually find fixed time to check your email. Maybe not applicable to everyone because of job natures. Maybe there's a way they can actually move and organize the way that information fit into so you can actually check email. Only limited time per day, not all the time. And he was saying that maybe 2 times. Maybe in the case, I actually do 3 times or 4 times, right? Partly because of, you have the US counterpart, India counterpart, and sometimes in the case of your local team. So I do 3 or 4 times now a day, right? So that I can focus. And organize the inbox, right? So that there's a certain rules that you can actually feed, right? There are certain spam, right? And Niam say, yeah, disable your Outlook notifications so that you don't get into, right? Set the rules with your team. One of the things I would do is, if you have real urgent, right? Let's say, right, I need to approve something. Don't send email. Don't send me that email. Send me a call. Call me, and then I'll look for the email for you. Else, you don't expect me to respond to your email within an hour. I just can't. Okay. How? I'll pass it to you so that you can actually talk about the maybe other tips from the book.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe one thing you talk about the escape from your smartphone, right? Actually, I mentioned that my phone is about 3 years old now, and your battery life is not that good. It actually doesn't last for a full day. For me, actually, nowadays, I kind of appreciate that because it makes sure that then I don't turn on my screen as much, and then also I don't use it as much. So sometimes, yeah, dumbing down your smartphone, not that you have to use a Nokia phone, but just even older phone without the long battery life actually will also help to make sure you're a little bit more disciplined. Because you consume the power and all that on something that you don't want, then you feel, hey, what about the end of the day? So in a way, actually is good. So the other thing, the tip number 3 and 4 here, I say browse the web smartly and so on. I say the main thing is probably the ad blockers, right? You go to some web, again, especially with YouTube nowadays, unfortunately, they interject all these ads inside the YouTube, right? You have to pause about 10, 15 seconds at least to watch an ad. But my son actually was pretty good. He told me, oh, there's actually an app that you can run that actually can skip all the ads there. Not that I'm encouraging you to do that, but apparently you can figure out. Of course, if you watch YouTube so much in terms of like work related, you can also consider to subscribe to the premium service. Then you'll remove all the ads. Right? Sometimes it's a small price to pay, but then you don't get all the distractions there. Then the 4th one is control your social media use. Kuang touched on that, and there are some of the examples that mentioned here: Forest, Habitica, the Momentum. In the book, it actually recommend this app called Freedom, where actually it kind of allow you to lock out your app, so that even if you want to go in, you cannot use it until 6 o'clock. They only can do Facebook or whatsoever. So it goes hand in hand actually a lot also in the Atomic Habit, right? A lot of you have read the book. I think some of folks have shared the Atomic Habit. Right? Atomic Habit, of course, you want to build a good habit, you make it easy, you make it rewarding and so on. But then if you want to remove the bad habits, then you make it difficult, you make it unattractive, right? So one way to do, use some of these apps to help you to lock it up so you don't access the apps and so on until a certain time. And then, of course, a lot of these apps also help you to track the usage time and so on, as just now some of you have shared also, right? And in fact, I can challenge you. Maybe some of you can try. You can go cold turkey, right, on your phone or on your social media. Try it for a week or a month. I did that actually a few years back on the Facebook. I say, okay, let me just kind of disconnect myself from the from the Facebook for a month just to see there's any impact. But I didn't lose any friends. I didn't lose any lose track of the current events or anything like that. And then I gained a lot of time back. But again, I'm still using Facebook now because again sometimes it's just some of the tips and all that I find useful. But I be very selective in terms of what I go through. So again, sometimes you can, if you have the discipline, you can use it. But sometimes you want to try it, you can, I say, try the cold turkey treatment. The cold turkey usually that's what they use for the alcoholism and all. But social media, then we talk about the addiction and all that. Sometimes you can try, get off for a month and see how your life is different.
So I think the next few tool is talk about, okay, if you free up your time on social media, then what's the time that you use up for, right? And I think I like the book about, they talk about this this concept called solitude. In fact, I actually doesn't know this English word, and I have to go up and pick it up and understand that this is the state whereby you be yourself, right? That you are not being worried, maybe not necessarily mentally, but physically not attached to any of your routine work. Spend some time alone by yourself. So I'll pass it to you. What do you learn from this book about the importance of this solitude?
I think you have to be comfortable to be by yourself. I think a lot of people feel like maybe it's a fear of missing out. They call the FOMO or whatever. Or people just feel they need to constantly be engaging with people, talking to people, and so on. But the book actually talk a lot about sometimes you need to be away from all the people, the distractions, clear your mind. And then it actually helps you in terms of your thinking process and so on. Of course, now we don't have the luxury to go to the beach, to the seaside to enjoy that the vast the atmosphere that you have. But I think we can still make use my little garden or even the taman outside. You just walk, sometimes just hear the birds chirping or just a fresh air and all that. It clears your mind. It does help quite a lot. And I think the most important thing is the solitude. You have to be comfortable to be by yourself, so that a lot of people get into the bad habits, partying, smoking, and all that. Sometimes it's just because they want to fit into the crowd, because they cannot stand to be by themselves. So I think it's very important for you to feel that. And then mostly for work, I think to clear your mind, and it does actually make you optimize, prioritize things a little bit better that way also.
Yep. And I think to me, the solitude, which is being alone yourself, is where the time that you're actually being clear about the priority of your day, the priority of your life, and maybe reflect about what's happening, what's the things you do. And sometimes you if you continue to be in this mode of executing, I think oftentimes you forget about do a reflection and do the fine tuning. And being alone, make your mind clear, is an important step to start to re-strategize what's important in your life or in your day. And this can be done maybe just 15 minutes, free of social media, free of anything by yourself, maybe just when you wake up. And I often hear people say that the good habits to have for most of the successful person is to just every day when you wake up, the first thing you do is think about what you want to achieve by today, what you want to get better of. And you can't just go into social media and be understanding what is important for you today. Right? Yeah. So anything to add, Howg?
No, I think we cover pretty much all we need to do to cover on this slide. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so what could you do now that you no longer have the digital distractions? Hopefully you're all convinced. So we cover a few of these. Of course, meet with friends, have a real conversations. Of course, now again, MCO may be a bit difficult to do meeting face to face. But I think you can call up people, call up your friends, have a real conversation. For me actually I like WhatsApp because I like the asynchronous nature, right? You send a message, you don't expect a response immediately. The person can respond another time. So I kind of like that. But I also find that sometimes you need that kind of real-time conversation as well, because actually you speak whatever comes to your mind, a bit heart-to-heart kind of discussion or talk, especially with your friends and relatives. So I encourage you to do that. And the book talk a lot about the importance of having that kind of human-to-human connections rather than through the technology. So that's kind of one thing. Again, hopefully with MCO over, then we all can meet up and enjoy the more of the face-to-face discussions there.
Yeah, I just want to add on top of that one is, you know, in the way that we use social media nowadays, it tends to be fast, as I noticed, right? You just click like, if people make a statement, you click like, and then move on, the next person posts. Having a real conversation means that you really listen to what your friend is going through in your life. Technologies like iMessage could be helping you because of distance. I think the key point is not about face-to-face only, because of course face-to-face gives you the maximum impact. But I think the things that focus on the real conversation, not a cheap like, right? 1,000 likes versus 1,000 seconds of conversation asking how are you different. Even you pick up a call and call. I think that's the key message and my takeaway. Back to you, Howg.
All right. Then the other thing is we talk a little bit about it, enjoying the nature. I'm still reading a book, How to Do Nothing. That book, that's the title of the book, How to Do Nothing. It's very interesting. I share with Kuang. We share a lot of books among ourselves. It was a bit tough to read in the beginning, but towards now I'm on the maybe more than halfway through. Actually talk a lot about enjoy the nature, how to do nothing. Actually, if you embrace the nature, you learn about a lot. There are still a lot of things you can do. Is when you're doing nothing, you actually free up yourself, right? And then you realize what is important, and you realize how you can focus. I think some of the folks here talk about meditation and all that. That also actually, a lot of people look at meditation as also how, you're not doing anything, you're just sitting there. But actually that helps. It actually for your mental health and all that is very important.
Right. I guess the enjoy the nature is straightforward.
All right.
You want to talk about this, Howg?
Yeah, sure. I think you touched on that already, learn new crafts. But I think recently in our team building, I'm not sure Mark is here. One of the guy actually share a bit of what he has been doing during MCO time. So apparently one of our colleague, he went and kind of restore the bike, a bicycle. He basically take out everything, repaint the whole thing, retrofit the wheels, putting a basket and everything. It was quite amazing, hearing his story. And we're doing this kind of 20-second, 20 slides kind of thing. And then in that 400 seconds he went through, I was like full respect and really admire like how the details he had gone into, and everything that he does. I mean, he write it out, he draft it out, and then he does the research, what kind of paint to use, what are the things to do and all. Mark is online, so yeah, I was like, wow, I was floored, and really, and then of course besides Mark, there are some of the people who do like they hamster, like Karen was doing the hamster, some people was doing the betta fish, and all these little pets and all that. But these people are really study and then go into really deep. They're like domain experts in those areas. So I thought, learn a craft and the best thing, create things.
Yeah, I just want to actually respond back to Mark. And Mark said that he just did it for fun. But I think that's exactly the point. You do it for fun. It's actually more fun than browsing social media.
Yeah. A sense of accomplishment and satisfaction there.
And let me elaborate on this one. The other one that you could do is to use your hand to write a letter, a note to people who matter to you. I have a friend that still send, I know it's old-fashioned, but every year looking forward for him to actually receive his birthday card that he handwrite. and then send it over. And I don't know how many people should do that. And I think in certain cases, I do write a letter to friends. Maybe write don't necessarily have to be in so-called the actual handwriting. You can actually send an email. But I think the idea is send a note, show your intention, show your sincerity in how much you care. It's more powerful than you send 1,000 likes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and people can feel that. That's for sure.
Yep.
All right, and then last but not least, support your community. As you all know, nowadays, we have all this white flag campaign. There are people in our neighborhood, in our community who need help. So again, encourage you all to reach out, and of course, Intel from time to time also have the community program. Then take some time. In one way, you can have a connection with the people, and then of course, by helping the community, you also have connection to the community as well.
All right. So I think that's almost the end. Are we maybe the last one?
Yeah, the last slide here. So actually the book talk about digital minimalism, and then the subtitle is actually choosing a focused life in a noisy world. Right, you want to have a focused life. There's a lot of distractions around us, and especially from the digital medias and so on. But you really have to prioritize and then ask, what is it that you want? And I think, Kohao, you want to ask $1 million question here?
Well, I think I don't remember was it in this book or other book. Is example they quoted, right? There's one person who was diagnosed cancer. I think from this book, or maybe that doctors say that he has only 6 months to live. And when that person received that news, then he actually started to make changes, right? What he did was he quit all the job, he quit all the tasks, and he actually stayed at home. And I think one thing he did was he spent and strategized the person he want to meet and have really quality time with that person. He invited that person over, friends or family members, and just really spend the time with them and not worry about that. Question for you is, if you was told that you have only 30 days to live, what will you do? That will be the question that we will actually throw for you to think further. What is the things you will do if you were told that you have only 30 days to live? Feel free to add the chat box. And I think this is also the time that we will also invite you to unmute yourself to share your thoughts. I don't know whether we do a good job or a lousy job. I think the lousy job means that you don't like what we shared. You rather go and find out from stuff in the book. Or we did a good job because the idea was so interesting that you still want to find out more stories from the book. Either way, the goal is, pick up the book and read it.
And show here some of the references. Besides the digital minimalism, we also kind of gone through some of the books or Netflix and YouTube. Again, we tell you digital minimalism, but YouTube and all that still a good source of information. It may be some oxymoron here that we tell you don't do it, but then tell you watch YouTube. But I think be selective, and we feel like some of these are really good. I thought like these. Like minimalism on Netflix, kind of interesting. This one is, of course, is more just beyond the digital, but it talk about people's life, how they gain back the freedom, by taking away all these material stuff that they have in their life.
Just to add a little bit more, this is, how and I initially was thinking, should we share about minimalism or should we only focus on book? So anyway, we stick to just the book, right? And because the book itself is so much concept, a big idea that I think it's worth to share. But at the same time, as we discuss further, some of the basic concepts to tie back to our life. So minimalism, the rich life with less stuff. These two, Ryan and Joshua, are one of the two, I think, advocates for minimalism. They make few TED talks. So we also suggest you, if you wanted to, If you want a movie, Netflix has a documentary. If you want a 15-minute TED Talk, you can go to YouTube and look for it. Again, it's not against YouTube. It's about how can you use these technologies to maximize the convenience and not being consumed by the AI engineers who want more time from you. I think that's is how we will conclude this sharing.
Hey,
Comment, folks.
How? This is Billy. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is a very great sharing that you have shared. I think way even much that we expected from both of you as usual, and we should get you all in every year as well, so that you guys can share something new every year. And like what you mentioned about the digital minimalism, I think all is not about the results that you get things off of our life, but it's really a process that we walk towards that thing. What that thing is about our objective, what we want to learn, what we want to have. And humans are very unique creature. We are all different in a sense of point. So what I urge is that you guys can take it back and reflect and see what is your life objective, what is your life purpose would be, and take it out, and then craft a nice pictures of how you want and how you want to achieve that. And slowly, with the clarity what you need, I think you will have a better choice for the things that you eat, for the things that make you fun, for the things that make you enjoyable, even for the things that you wanted to read and wanted to watch. So it really helps with the list as well. Try it out and see how that would make change in all of you. And I think I mentioned to How and How the other day before, and probably someone that attended this sharing session wanted to find partners, wanted to find a community, so that we wanted to do it together. So I think you can encourage to do so. I think just drop probably How or myself or anyone who just commented on the chat, like Niam, even Eric and Suresh. So see if they are the person who you like to build and learn together. And then it will be a good place for us to just get started. And we can I think some of you tried before the methods that have been used, but this is not something that can be written on books, but it's really something for you to experience. So I want to say thanks again, How, for this great sharing, and really this is just a journey and awareness what we can do. Yeah.
Thanks, Billy. Now again, it was Billy and who sent me this book and asked me to read, and I was like, what's that? There's nothing much, right? But I did like it. I like to come back and share. I like to maybe partner with How again, because he's the one who actually made me to think further on what to share. I think I also encourage all of you to share more. Part of the reason why I want to share is because they will enforce that I reinforce the concept, right? Because I don't want to be the person who shared, I'm not doing it. Second is it will deepen my understanding, because when I first read it, I thought that I understand it, but when I want to share it, I found that I probably doesn't understand it that well, and therefore it pushed me to go further, look for YouTube. If you were to say what would he say, and that helped me to strengthen my skills. I hope that's helped. Hope that we see more people who have certain ideas, and you read certain books and you really like it. I encourage you to actually step up and talk to Billy and say, hey, I want to share, because sharing will deepen your understanding about that ideas.
Yeah, and you find a great partner. I've been lucky to find How to be my partner in crime. We've done a few sharing so far on the different books, and by talking to How, actually also kind of validate some of the understanding, and also again we learn from each other. So it's been great. So I encourage you all to If you feel to do it by yourself is overwhelming, find a partner, or if you need help, we help you to mix and match partner also. I think that's the best way to learn. Again, social connection, the person to person, heart to heart connection is very important.
So I believe that people who wanted to actually do further study or read the books and reach out to me or Billy, we'll find a way to get you the book, or you can actually just pick up from the local bookstore.
Yeah, and actually this one, 16 Rules for Living with Less, Minimalist Rulebook, is actually free. This one, you can download the PDF. Again, these guys are not in there to make money. They're actually going around US to tell people about minimalism lifestyle, and they actually have these 16 rules, and you can actually go and download it for free. Yeah.
All right. I hope this is helpful. With that, I think it's time to do a sign off.
All right. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for all the feedback. I think the chat very active. Thank you everybody for your feedback. I will go through it. I haven't got the time to read through everything, but thank you all.
All right.
Okay, bye.
I hope it helps. Bye bye all.
Alright, thank you for being a learner. I hope that you enjoyed the session and learned something today. The recommended books and links are all in the descriptions. Remember not to forget to subscribe to this channel for more learning in the future. Do remember to check out the recommended playlist that you can see on the screen now, and so that you can learn more today. See you again next time.